372 days. 372 days of silence. 372 days of watching from the sideline, of throwing bullpen sessions nobody filmed, of sitting in the stands charting pitches like a minor leaguer, of watching his teammates play games that count without him. 372 days since Gerrit Cole, the most expensive pitcher in the history of the New York Yankees, the man carrying a $324 million contract on his right arm, last stood on a professional baseball mound in a game that mattered. And then, on March 18, 2026, 5 days ago, in a spring training game at George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, Florida, against the Boston Red Sox, he walked back out there. 1 inning, 10 pitches, 7 strikes, 6 four-seam fastballs averaging 97.1 miles per hour with a high of 98.7, a scoreless frame, and a smile on his face that told you everything you needed to know about what 372 days away from something you love actually feels like when you finally come back. And Aaron Boone, the Yankees manager, the man who has been watching this comeback build pitch by pitch, session by session, bullpen by bullpen for over a year, went on the Yes Network broadcast the very next day and said something that Yankees fans needed to hear more than almost any words spoken about this team all spring. He said, and I want you to really hear this, "I'm not going to put any ceiling on what Gerrit could do once he's back in the rotation." No ceiling from the manager of the New York Yankees about his ace after Tommy John surgery at 35 years old after an entire year away from the game. No ceiling. Those 2 words landed on every baseball analyst, every Yankees fan, every opposing manager in the American League East like a thunderclap. Because what Boone is really saying, what those 2 words actually communicate when you strip away the diplomatic optimism and look at the substance underneath, is that the New York Yankees believe they are about to get back one of the most dominant starting pitchers in baseball. Not a diminished version, not a shadow of who he was, the real thing. And if Boone is right, if the 372 days of careful, meticulous, perfectly executed rehabilitation have produced what the early returns are suggesting, then the entire power structure of the American League is about to change dramatically. But to understand why this comeback matters so much, to feel the full weight of what Gerrit Cole returning to that mound actually means for this franchise, you have to understand what this team looked like without him. And what it looked like was genuinely scary, not in the good way. Let me take you back to March 11th, 2025. The Yankees are in spring training. Everything, supposedly, is on track. Cole is throwing, the rotation looks solid. The 2025 season, the one that was supposed to be the year New York finally brought a championship back to the Bronx after the painful 2024 World Series loss to the Dodgers, is 12 days from beginning. And then, Cole walks off a mound in a spring training game against the Minnesota Twins and says 3 words that sent shockwaves through the entire organization. 3 words that every Yankees fan who heard them felt in their stomach like a punch. Something wasn't right. Something wasn't right. It was a torn UCL. Tommy John surgery was scheduled for the very next day, March 11th, 2025. Cole blew out his elbow that spring, had Tommy John surgery performed by Dr. Neil Elatrach, and missed the entire 2025 regular season without throwing a single pitch in a game that counted. The entire season gone. The ace, the anchor, the man with the $324 million contract and the 6 All-Star appearances and the 2023 American League Cy Young Award and the postseason record that had made Yankees fans believe that when October came, their pitcher was better than your pitcher, gone for a full year. And the Yankees, without him, went 5-12 in a stretch that cost Kevin Stefanski his job. Wait, wrong team. They lost in the ALDS to Toronto. They watched from home while other teams played October baseball. They built toward the moment when Cole came back. And now, on March 23, 2026, that moment is almost here. And the early signs? The early signs are not just encouraging, they are remarkable. Cole's fastball has been touching the upper 90s during his throwing sessions. He threw a 35-pitch bullpen session on March 12th. He was hitting 97.5 miles per hour. He was throwing his breaking pitches. Everything has been on track. Every marker hit, every checkpoint passed. For a 35-year-old pitcher coming back from Tommy John surgery, a procedure that typically carries a 14 to 16-month rehabilitation timeline, those numbers should not be taken for granted. Because Tommy John is not just a physical recovery, it is a complete reconstruction. The UCL, the tiny, critical, irreplaceable ligament that allows a pitcher to generate the torque and the force and the violent snapping motion that produces professional velocity, is replaced, rebuilt, retaught, and the arm has to relearn everything. How to fire, how to generate, how to sequence the kinetic chain from the legs, through the core, through the shoulder, through the elbow to the fingertips that guide the baseball to a spot 60 feet and 6 inches away with precision that would be impressive at any speed and is extraordinary at 97 miles per hour. And Cole? Cole is doing it at 97 miles per hour. 5 days before opening day, 5 days before the 2026 New York Yankees season officially begins, without him in the rotation, but with the absolute, unwavering organizational conviction that he will join it. And when he does, Boone was unambiguous about the expectation. "I'm not going to put any ceiling on what Garrett could do once he's back in the rotation," he said, and then he went further. "I think so," Boone said when asked if Cole could still anchor the Yankees' rotation. "He's so good at his craft. The success rate on these surgeries is usually pretty good, and the way the rehab process has gone would suggest that he's going to return to form." Heavy sports. Return to form. For a pitcher who, when in form, goes 19-5 with a 2.86 ERA, who goes 8-5 with a 3.41 ERA in 17 starts, even in an injury-shortened season, who goes 1-0 with a 2.17 ERA in 5 postseason starts, in the pressure cooker of October baseball, against the best hitters in the game, with a World Series on the line. That is who the New York Yankees are expecting back in their rotation at some point between late May and the end of June. Not a reclamation project, not a soft comeback story about a veteran who used to be great managing his way through limited innings at reduced velocity. The actual Garrett Cole, the one who won the Cy Young, the one who has made 6 All-Star teams, the one who, when healthy and in form, is as imposing a starting pitcher as anyone in the sport. Now let's talk about what Cole actually looked like on March 18th in that spring training start, because beyond the radar gun readings and the pitch count, the specific details of that one inning tell you a lot about where he is and what the Yankees are actually dealing with. Returning to game action exactly 372 days after his surgery, Cole's first pitch to Boston's Braden Ward was bunted for a hit down the first base line. Cole had to field the ball and nearly made a play, a clean pickup and throw while moving toward first, just one pitch into his competitive return. "Almost made a really good play right out of the chute that you kind of hold your breath on," Boone said on the broadcast. "But he got right into the mix. All of a sudden, you've got a fast runner, you've got to control the running game, and you're trying to make pitches for the first time in that setting." ESPN. Think about what that means. The very first pitch of Garrett Cole's competitive return from Tommy John surgery. Not a clean 1-2-3 inning where everything goes perfectly. Not a showcase where the Yankees control the environment and make him look as good as possible. The first pitch of his return is bunted for a hit. There is a fast runner on first base. He has to immediately process fielding the ball, decision-making about the throw, and getting back into his pitching rhythm, all while managing the adrenaline and the emotion and the physical sensation of competing in a real game for the first time in over a year. And Cole handled it, got out of the inning, kept the ball in the park, threw strikes. Cole himself said afterward, "I had a lot of fun out there. It was very enjoyable. I just wanted to enjoy all of it. That was my goal for today. No reservations, try not to judge yourself too hard, and just have fun. Just go ahead and let it fly." ESPN. Let it fly.
at 97 miles per hour, with breaking pitches working and a smile on his face after 372 days. That is the Garrett Cole the Yankees have been waiting for. But here is the part of this story that requires the most honest, most careful examination, because the optimism is real and the early results are genuine. But Tommy John surgery at 35 is not a simple, clean guarantee of full recovery. It is a complicated, nuanced, deeply individual process that produces different outcomes for different pitchers at different stages of their careers. These days, Tommy John surgery comes with a 14 to 16-month rehab timeline, assuming there are no hiccups. Cole's surgery was on March 11, 2025. His spring training start was on March 18, 2026, 1 year and 1 week out from the procedure. The fact that he's pitching in a game at all at that stage indicates the rehab has gone exceptionally well, but the Yankees are still targeting late May or early June for his return to the Major League rotation. That timeline has not changed, despite the encouraging spring outing. Heavy sports. Late May or early June, that means the Yankees open the 2026 season on Netflix this Wednesday, March 25th, with Max Fried taking the ball against Logan Webb and the San Francisco Giants without their ace. And they begin what they are hoping will be a championship season with a rotation that has lost not just Cole, but also Carlos Rodon, who is dealing with his own elbow issues. Boone was direct about managing expectations while also maintaining the overall optimism about Cole's trajectory. The reality is he didn't pitch last year on top of having that surgery. We want to make sure we give him the proper time to make sure he is good and ready to come back, built up in a smart way. So no, we won't rush that with him, even if it continues to go incredibly well. You've got to be cognizant of the innings he missed last year, and you want to be able to maximize those as much as you can and have him in the best, safest position he is once he returns to roll. Dogs by nature.
We won't rush it, even if it continues to go incredibly well. That is Aaron Boone, a manager who clearly has enormous confidence in Cole's recovery, explicitly pumping the brakes on the timeline because he understands something that the excitement of that spring training outing might tempt people to overlook. Cole did not just miss last season because of surgery. He missed last season and had the surgery. Those are two compounding factors. The physical stress of a full major league season, 30-plus starts, over 180 innings, the accumulated wear of a 162-game schedule on an arm that has been completely rebooked, that stress has to be accounted for carefully. The Yankees are not going to take their $324 million pitcher, who just spent 372 days in rehabilitation, and rush him back to throw 100 pitches in May because a spring training outing went well. The goal is not May. The goal is October. And getting Cole to October healthy, sharp, and fully built up is the entire plan. And here is where the Cole comeback story intersects with the bigger picture of what the 2026 New York Yankees are trying to accomplish. Because this is not a team that is rebuilding. This is not a team in transition. This is not a franchise accepting a developmental year while the young players figure it out. This is a team that went to the World Series 2 years ago, that won the pennant, that watched the Dodgers celebrate in the Bronx, on their field, in their city, and came home burning with a specific, focused, deeply personal motivation to go back and finish the job. And every single decision this organization has made in the offseason, the Bellinger signing, the Grisham retention, the rotation depth additions, the bullpen construction, has been made with one goal in mind: World Series 2026. And Garrett Cole is the X factor that makes that goal realistic rather than aspirational. Cole is signed through 2028 on his $324 million deal. His last official Major League game action was in Game 5 of the 2024 World Series on October 30th of that year. Dogs by nature. Game 5 of the World Series, that was the last time Garrett Cole threw a pitch in a game that counted. And the next time he throws a pitch in a game that counts, sometime in late May or early June of 2026, it will have been over 18 months since that moment.
18 months of physical rehabilitation, mental preparation, mechanical adjustment. 18 months of being one of the highest paid athletes in the history of professional sports and not being able to do the thing he was paid to do. The frustration of that situation, the drive to come back and prove that the surgery has not diminished what he is, the specific competitive fire of a player who remembers exactly what it felt like to pitch in Game 5 of a World Series and wants to feel that again, all of that is going to be visible in every pitch Cole throws when he walks back onto a major league mound for the first time since that October night. And the alteration he has made to his delivery, that is worth discussing because the change is visible and it is meaningful. Cole has altered his windup, putting his hands over his head in an old-school style. Before the surgery, he stopped at his chest. Boone addressed the change on the broadcast, saying, "I think right now he likes it. Doesn't mean he won't go back to his other way at some point, but I think it's just kind of a rhythm and timing thing for him." Yard barker. A rhythm and timing thing. That phrase is more significant than it might appear to the casual fan, because when a pitcher comes back from Tommy John, when the arm is rebuilt and the mechanics have to be recalibrated from the ground up, the delivery is the first place where problems manifest. Timing issues, sequencing problems, the arm and the body not quite syncing up the way they did before the surgery changed the feel of everything. Cole changing his windup is not a desperate act. It is a sophisticated, intelligent, self-aware adjustment from a pitcher who knows his body, knows his delivery, knows what generates the best outcomes, and who has spent 372 days figuring out what the rebuilt version of his arm needs to function at its best. The over-the-head motion may look different from what Yankees fans remember, but if it produces 97 miles per hour with command and movement, nobody is complaining about the aesthetics. Now, let's zoom out, because the Cole comeback story does not exist in isolation. It exists inside a Yankee season that begins this Wednesday on Netflix, with all of its promise and all of its complications visible at the same time. The opening day rotation, Fried, followed by Gill, Weathers, Schlitter, Warren, starts without its two most important veteran arms. Cole will not be ready for opening day. The Yankees are proceeding with patience, dogs by nature. And Rodon, whose elbow surgery to remove loose bodies was expected to sideline him for at least a few weeks, adds another layer of uncertainty to what was already a complicated pitching situation heading into April. And then there's Ryan Weathers, the left-handed starter acquired from the Marlins for 4 prospects, the trade that raised eyebrows at the time and that is generating real anxiety among Yankees fans after a difficult start to spring training. Aaron Boone gave an update on Weathers as well this week, acknowledging that his spring has been rocky, dogs by nature. Rocky is generous. Weathers came to New York carrying a career 4.93 ERA and an injury history that made scouts nervous, and his spring training performances have not done much to quiet those concerns. The man who is supposed to be a bridge, a veteran arm holding down a rotation spot while Cole and Rodon work their way back in, has himself been less than reassuring in the outings he has had. But here's the thing about the Yankees' overall picture that the Weathers anxiety and the Cole timeline and the Rodon absence all need to be filtered through. This is a team that has Max Fried, who went 19-5 with a 2.86 ERA last season, who is coming into 2026 as one of the 5 best left-handed starters in baseball, taking the ball on opening day. Max Fried has already been announced as the Yankees starter for opening night, dogs by nature. When your opening day starter is a pitcher who went 19-5 and your ace is coming back from surgery in June with Aaron Boone saying there's no ceiling on what he can do, the situation is complicated, but it is not dire. It is a franchise managing the return of one of its most important players while trying to stay competitive in one of the toughest divisions in baseball until that player is ready. That is a challenge, not a crisis.
And the timeline gives reason for genuine optimism about what the Yankees look like in October. Because here is the scenario that every Yankees fan is playing out in their head right now. You survive April without Cole. You survive May with Fried leading the way and the bullpen covering for the rotation's weaknesses and Aaron Judge carrying the lineup. And then, sometime in early June, in a Tuesday night game at Yankee Stadium that will draw more attention than any regular season start in years, Garrett Cole walks back to the mound. Not in a spring training game in Tampa, not in a simulated session at the facility, at Yankee Stadium, in a major league game, with the crowd going absolutely insane, with 50,000 people on their feet from the moment he steps out of the bullpen gate, with the entire baseball world watching. And if he is what Aaron Boone believes he is, if the 372 days of work have produced the pitcher who won the Cy Young, who dominated in the postseason, who has been one of the best starters in baseball for the better part of a decade, then the New York Yankees in June look completely different from the New York Yankees on opening night. They become, almost overnight, one of the 2 or 3 most dangerous teams in baseball. Because you add Garrett Cole to a rotation that already has Max Fried and a rebuilt bullpen and the most dangerous lineup in the American League, led by Aaron Judge coming off his World Baseball Classic heartbreak and burning to prove everything in the regular season. And you have something genuinely frightening for the other 29 franchises in baseball. And Boone was clear about what the plan is once Cole is back. No workhorse role immediately. No throwing him into 100-pitch starts right out of the gate. A carefully managed, intelligently sequenced return that builds toward October rather than rushing toward April. We want to make sure we give him the proper time to make sure he is good and ready to come back, built up in a smart way, Boone said. So no, we won't rush that with him, even if it continues to go incredibly well. You've got to be cognizant of the innings that he missed last year, and you want to be able to maximize those as much as you can and have him in the best, safest position he is in once he returns to roll, dogs by nature. Maximized for October. That is the plan. Cole in late May or June, building him up through the summer. Careful with the workload, protecting the arm from the kind of accumulated stress that breaks down pitchers who come back too fast from major surgery. And then, when the leaves turn and the weather cools and the playoffs begin and the pressure becomes everything, having Garrett Cole healthy, sharp, fully built up, and ready to be exactly what he was in 5 postseason starts in 2024, when he went 1-0 with a 2.17 ERA against the best hitters in baseball. That is the bet the Yankees are making. And Aaron Boone, the manager who has watched every bullpen session, who has been in the building for every step of this comeback, who knows this pitcher as well as anyone in baseball, is telling you clearly and without hedging that the bet is going to pay off. No ceiling on what Garrett Cole can do when he gets back. Return to form, back to his ace. The way the rehab is gone suggests exactly that. And Cole himself? Cole, who said he had fun on that mound in Tampa last Wednesday? Cole, who let it fly at 97 miles per hour and threw a scoreless inning and smiled afterward? Cole, who said, "I feel good coming out of it. I had fun out there, and that's really about it. It was a little bit different, a little more exciting knowing that I got to play today. So all in all, it was a good day from start to finish." ESPN. A good day from start to finish. After 372 days, for $324 million, for a franchise that needs him, for a fan base that never stopped believing he would come back, for a city that watched the Dodgers celebrate on their field 2 years ago and has been waiting, patiently and sometimes not so patiently, for the chance to go back and finish it.
Garrett Cole is coming back. The timeline is late May or early June. The velocity is already at 97 miles per hour. The manager says there is no ceiling. The arm is rebuilt. The motivation is enormous. And Aaron Boone, who has managed this pitcher, who has watched this comeback unfold day by day, who has more information about where Garrett Cole actually is right now than any analyst or fan or broadcaster anywhere, looked into that camera and said he is going to return to his former self. He is going to be an ace. We are not putting any ceiling on what he can do. 372 days, 1 scoreless inning, 97 miles per hour, no ceiling. The United States Yankees ace is coming back, and the American League should be very, very afraid. Disclaimer: this video is produced for entertainment and informational purposes only. All statistics, quotes, injury timelines, and analysis are sourced from publicly available reports from MLB.com, CBS Sports, Heavy.com, Bleacher Report, Fox Sports, Yahoo Sports, Clutch Points, and the Associated Press as of March 23, 2026. Always refer to official New York Yankees announcements for confirmed roster and injury information.